Um, so Alan, thank you very much for inviting me to do a sort of brief talk. I guess so. If I aim to finish sort of about 10:25.
Yeah, I meant to say, actually, I've read Take Your Shot. It is the world's best book. It's just heaven. And it's even got pictures in, which for a business book is just like my idea of happiness. And it's short. So those two factors mean it's really good. And it's very inspiring, really. So do have a read. So Robin, here you go.
Well, I designed it for a short haul flight, which you can't now take. So I guess you'll have to find another opportunity to read it. So Alan very kindly invited me just to hop on and do a little bit of a talk about the 5 things which you should and shouldn't do during a crisis. The 5 things are quite important because it's not just about coronavirus and the current circumstances. These apply to most situations where maybe business has kind of taken a bit of a turn for the worst. And what tends to happen when there is a crisis, you end up kind of making decisions based on your current set of circumstances. And during a crisis, obviously things are negative. So if you're trying to make decisions based on sort of a negative set of circumstances, those decisions aren't necessarily going to be good ones. And what's going to probably more than likely happen is compound any issues which are kind of going on within your business. So actually and this isn't one of the tips, by the way, this is a bonus. One of the best things you can do during a crisis is just be patient, which is kind of what I did. I didn't put out any content in the first sort of 2 or 3 weeks of the crisis, not least because I got ill myself, but I just wanted to kind of sit back and just observe and see what other business leaders, thought leaders, the government, business owners, local growth hubs and all the different kind of business communities out there. I just wanted to kind of see what other people were doing and what was creating the biggest difference, really. So that's where these five tips which I've created came from. It's just a series of observations which I've made. So I'm going to go, there's no presentation, there's no PowerPoint slide deck or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of talk through it. And by all means, if you, maybe we could, if you've got questions, make a note of them and we'll save them for the end, because I'm sure this might open up a couple of things I say, as Alan knows, will open up a can of worms and you'll probably want to kind of quiz me on some of the things. So the first thing, excuse me, the first thing is do not discount. So day one of lockdown, there was a brilliant course designer. She writes courses about how to build an online course, and she should be selling them for 2 or 3 times the price. And she was selling them for about £600. Day one of lockdown, she does a special offer selling her course for 150 quid. And when you actually start to break down the economics of it, and this is going to be a really terrible economics 101 for you all now, done in Robin's own inimitable way. Quick show of hands, who has had more time in their business since coronavirus started? One, right? So the idea behind doing like big meaty discounts like that is to sell at volume, right? So imagine now we've got less time, i.e. less capacity. So this person's selling more of what she's got into she's depressing her own capacity here. And about a week later, after she'd done this special offer, she came back to me and said, Robin, I've got a problem. I don't have any more time. And loads of people still want this course because part of it involved some one-to-one time with the clients. And she had ignored my advice in the first place to discount. And basically she had no capacity. There was nothing she could do until she'd worked her way through those clients who bought. And so effectively, where she was selling a course for £600, she was selling 4 people for the same price as what she was getting before. So it totally just ransacked her business. The second thing, again, is this is kind of, that's basic kind of supply and demand. So discounts are designed to increase supply, or increase demand, sorry. The second thing is, and Alan will be familiar with this as an accountant, ex-accountant. Imagine a scenario where most healthy businesses make about a 15 to 20% net profit on the bottom line. And this is a really terrible calculation, Alan. You're probably going to kick my ass for this, but if we discount by 20%, we've just eroded our net profit on the bottom line. Now, the reason why most business owners will do small discounts like that, and actually, to be fair, there's a lot of business owners out there who they don't have to discount. They're already charging too little in the first place. So they've already reduced down their margins dramatically anyway. So, but let's assume that you're making some profit. We erode the profit away, so there's now no profit left. The reason why most business owners don't notice this is because a lot of, so for example, a lot of the businesses we work with, one-man bands, they've got lots of money coming in from lots of different places. So there's cash flowing in, there's cash flowing out the business, and so any losses just get absorbed into general day-to-day cash flow. But we get to the end of the month and we scratch our heads and go, well, why have I got no profit this month to pay myself with? This doesn't make any sense. So even tiny discounts can start to erode our profit on the bottom line. What's really interesting, and this is where I'm not going to explain the maths behind this. Perhaps I should have had a slide for this. But let's say, for example, and this is not net profit, but let's say, for example, your business is pushing out a gross profit of about, let's say, 35 to 40%. So not a massive gross profit. But typical of a lot of service-based businesses. If you just decrease your prices, discount by 5%, you've got to sell 33% more of whatever it is that you sell in order to keep your net profit the same. Does anybody want me to repeat that? Yeah. So if you decrease your prices by 5%, you've got to sell 33% more of your profit of your product or service in order to keep the same level of net profit. Okay, so that 20% I showed you, if you discounted by 20%, you've got to sell like double the amount of products that you had to sell before in order to push out any kind of decent profit out of the business. So discounting under any circumstances is actually a really terrible idea. Even when it comes to discounting based on volume. And I'm assuming, how many of you have got service-based businesses? So hourly rate, day rate, pretty much all of you. Okay. So this applies to pretty much everybody then. We're not selling commodities here. You know, these are, so all of the numbers I've just given you really stack up quite heavily. I do believe that there is an opportunity to discount based on volume, but it should be minuscule, like 5 or 10%. Because you sell more, you're creating more like economies of scale, gross profit, net profit, everything works out. If you are going to discount anything at all, I would build what I call an attraction offer on the front end. So it could be something as simple as, and probably a lot of you do this already, but a free consultation. So you do the consultation for free, but your core product where you make your money, never discount that. Notice how this applies not just to a crisis, but it's a general rule. But people panicked at the start of the crisis, and you just saw everybody putting offers out. It was just buy my shit, like sales, like everywhere. Offer, offer, offer. We're overwhelmed by the stuff. So discounts are bad. I think we've established that. The second thing, which you shouldn't do, is pivot your business. Now, I need to balance this off. You've got to look at pivot versus adapting your business. So there are occasions. So I had a good friend of mine from my local hockey club. She's a driving instructor, had no money coming in for sort of March and April. So she had to do something completely different. She ended up becoming a delivery driver for Sainsbury's. So, you know, under certain circumstances, there are kind of, you know, you've got no option but to do a complete and utter about turn. For most of us though, I mean, I saw a lot of people taking their business, which was, let's say, for example, you do one-to-one consulting, you know, you go to a client and you help them out with something face-to-face. All of a sudden they're ditching that in favor of building online learning courses. And there may even be a couple of you here who are like, yeah, actually I've given that a go. Now I've built several online learning courses, and it's time consuming. It's costly. Generally speaking, when you launch a face-to-face product versus an online course, it's a different audience that you're appealing to. And not only that, once you've built it and paid for it and launched it, you've now got to market and sell it. Now, all of a sudden, those 5 different activities of creating an online course, like, could take weeks or even months. By that point, we're probably going to be out of this. Not only that, but what's going to happen when the market expands again? So we're in this massive depression. Oh, by the way, quick straw poll here. I don't know the exact figures, but let's say for argument's sake, there was £1 trillion sat in bank accounts in the UK, business bank accounts, personal bank accounts, or anything like that. So back on the 1st of March, there was £1 trillion sat in bank accounts. 23rd of March comes along and they announce lockdown. Did that money just evaporate? Okay. Does anybody want to disagree with me? I know things like stock markets crashed and various things like that. They'll recover. Pensions, okay, there's going to be various problems with that, but that the money is still there. All that's happened is it's not being distributed. There are a lot of business owners who are still doing deals and still getting jobs. So this is about not creating a new product to attract people into your business. This is actually about just being patient. And yes, okay, you might have to survive for 3 months, but but passively wait for business to come to you is a much better approach than going out and building something new and trying to launch it, because it's just a massive pull on resources. Adapting is much more like taking your consulting business and delivering it through Zoom, and taking much more of a coaching approach as opposed to a consulting approach, for example. So it's a slight adaptation. Again, show of hands. Has anybody pivoted? Probably not going to own up now I said that. Has anybody pivoted completely their business model? Yeah, it's kind of similar result. I've done this talk several times now. And so Ian, what have you done?
We've pivoted slightly, actually. So, I mean, you'll be familiar, Robin, with our interactive digital sales presentations.
Yep.
And so now we are still producing those really well. But actually our messaging has changed in terms of, okay, so now if we're really trying to help sales teams engage with their customers, they can do this not only if they can't get out in person to see people, but now they can share screens over video conferencing, Zoom, that kind of thing. And they can do that presentation through a shared screen remotely.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like you've adapted as opposed to pivoted.
Okay, that's what I meant, yeah.
You've adapted the business model slightly to accommodate the circumstances.
Exactly.
And the reason for that is, for most of us, our businesses were working fine pre-crisis. Okay, our business models were generally working. You might have needed more clients. You might have needed to fix a couple of issues in your business to make some more money. But generally speaking, most business models were working. So why do we feel all of a sudden we've got to throw that out the window and come up with something completely new? It just doesn't make sense, because what's going to happen when market expands again, money starts flowing. 3 months time, they start to, reduce what's going on with the lockdown. We start to get back to business as usual. We're going to naturally return to what we were doing before. Hopefully it'll be slightly improved, because the beauty of times like this is people are creative. We come up with new ideas. We find ways to improve, what we're doing. Generally speaking, a lot of us will return to what we were doing before, because it worked before, with a few adaptations. So no discounting, no pivoting. The third thing is, and again, this is similar to the discounting thing, but so many people were panicking to bring cash into their business. Now I use that example of the person who was selling those courses for 150 quid. What she's done is taken 150 pounds out of somebody else's bank account to satisfy her own needs, to put food on the table. I get it. It's tough times for a lot of people. We need, needs must. However, that person now doesn't have 150 pounds to spend on something else, maybe food for themselves or marketing or something like that. Now what they've got is a course. They're 150 pounds lighter. They've built the relearning course, and now they're going, shit, I don't have any money left to do marketing. So kind of sales, don't get me wrong, sales are super important. I'm not suggesting turn people away if they're throwing money at you to buy your products here. But actually, just if you can survive this without going out and proactively selling, and think about it, think about how your mindset has shifted around what you're spending your money on. People are less likely to buy right now. So there's no point in spending all of this energy trying to sell stuff. Actually, what's a better approach is to build an audience, or continue to build your audiences. So a simple example is a Facebook group. So what happened again with that e-learning person was their group was quite small. They sold a load of courses at 150 pounds because people were kind of sold on it anyway. They were just saving their money up to pay for it. And then all of a sudden it's 150 quid. Let's buy loads of it. She burnt through her, what we call the warm audiences. Now she's got nobody left to sell anything to. So it's much better. Imagine if you had a Facebook group that's 500 people pre-crisis. And over the course of the next 3 months, you just focus heavily on how can we get more people into that group? How can we deliver high value content that's going to engage people? And imagine if in 3 months' time, you come out of this with 1,000 people in your group, or 1,500 people in your group, or 2,000 people in your group. Then you do a product launch when the market expands. And all of a sudden your market is like your potential market is now 2, 3, 4 times the size of what it was pre-crisis, because people are hungry for information and help and advice, much like this. So find a way to give it to them. It also, I see with a lot of our clients, you know, this is before they work with us, they're in what we call the sales cycle of doom. They're doing sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver. I get ill, can't sell, can't deliver. Then eventually I get better, money's dried up. Then we get back on the bandwagon, sell, deliver, sell, deliver. And they neglect a lot of the other stuff that's going on in the background of the business, i.e. the marketing, the audience building, the content generation, things like that. So now's a great time to be doubling down on all that stuff. So that when you do a product launch and the market's expanded, all of a sudden you have a much greater opportunity there. And because you haven't become a discount warehouse, all of a sudden you've got more opportunities at either the same price, or if you work with me, a higher price than what you're on pre-crisis. So that's tip number 3, build an audience. Tip number 4 is kind of linked to that, and that's produce high value content which will outlive coronavirus. Now, if you're an accountant, a business advisor, whatever, it's fine to kind of focus a little bit of your energy and effort on keeping people up to speed with what the government are doing in terms of their financial stimulus and things like that. That's fine. For most of us, though, what we don't want to do is spend 3 months delivering coronavirus related content for our audience, and then we come out of it, and now we've spent 3 months developing effectively irrelevant content. So you've got to get a fine balance between 20% on, relevant content right now and 80% on content that's going to last. I'll be honest, it was one of the mistakes I made with writing my book. So Online Business Startup had a load of very tactical stuff in it, about social media in the last third of it that is 5 years probably out of date now. I don't mind admitting that, and I need to cut it out. So when I wrote Take Your Shot, it was a commercial decision to make sure that that book had timeless business models in it. So we should all be taking on board some of that now. And that means, getting stuck into doing things like, maybe if you were fearful of doing videos before, now's the time to just, everybody's online and in video. You put a terrible video up, nobody's going to notice because there's loads of terrible videos up there, right? So get used to being on video and if you go and look at my YouTube channel, like the first 30 or 40 videos are shocking. I watch them. I mean, to be fair, I still get some positive comments about them. So the content's good, but I watch it and I'm like, oh my God, was I wearing that shirt? Oh, look at the staging that I put behind me, sort of, it's awful. But it gave me the foundations to be able to go out and create better quality videos and launch my speaking career and things like that. So, get out there and start producing valuable content that will outlive the crisis. Super, super important. Videos, lead magnets, blog articles, guest posts, speaking like this at various different events if you can get them. There's tons of different things which you can do content-wise. So we've done no discounting, number 1. Number 2, no pivoting. Number 3, focus on building an audience. Don't just focus on sales. And this is all obvious stuff, by the way. There's nothing kind of groundbreaking or new here, but sometimes we just need a reminder. Number 4, create content. And then number 5, I'm kind of preaching to the converted here, but stay connected. And there's a bit of a message behind this. As Alan knows, as Ian knows, I kind of struggled a lot with mental health in my adult life, learned how to kind of sort of get by with it. But one of the things which I've noticed since the lockdown that's kind of been exaggerated quite a lot. I've also, if you look at the stats, 25% increase in suicide attempts, 60% increase in domestic violence reports, 70% increase in people phoning up mental health helplines like Samaritans and stuff like that. So as somebody who has experienced it, you may be feeling okay now, but anxiety, mental health, and things like that are things which they're creeping diseases, and then all of a sudden, bang, you get hit by it. And it's pretty awful feeling it myself, and I hate other people having to go through that. So there's 2 messages here. One is if you find yourself sinking a bit, find a way to connect with you. If your business, like I find flow in the work I do with business, this sort of stuff. So go and connect with your business community, go and connect with your family on Zoom or things like that. Don't just hide away. I'm sure a lot of you aren't doing that. The second thing as well is there'll be plenty of people out there who are just sinking away, like hiding away. All of a sudden they'll just disappear off the radar. I'm quite good at spotting it because I'm familiar with it myself. So if you spot anybody who has just all of a sudden disappeared off your radar, who's been there, trust me, they're not on holiday right now. There's probably something amiss going on, and reach out to them. Even if it's just a, hey, how you doing? And quick check-in, because that will mean the world of difference to them. If they are struggling, they might be fine. They might just be, just taking a bit of time out, because we all need that too. But please do make sure that you check in with people as well if all of a sudden they disappear. So that's my five things. And hopefully that's given you a few ideas that you can kind of take into your business. And I guess, Alan, do we want to open up the floor to questions?
Yeah, I'm just going to have to be really techie here and stop the. Oh no, I'll leave the questions open and recording, because they're usually one of the most interesting points, other than Robin speaking. Okay, any questions first? I mean, I've got some, but if other people got some, that would be really good.
I've got a quick one, Alan, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Totally agree, Robin, with everything you've said there, which is super. Thank you. With regards to not discounting your rates, your charge out rates, whatever, what are your thoughts with regards to trying to establish retainer packages with clients to get that regular cash flow throughout the year? How easy do you feel that is? I think for certain service industries, it's a lot easier than others. But what are your thoughts with regards to trying to set up retainers for ad hoc project-based type businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we are in a depressed market, and people don't have money just shoved down the back of the sofa, to access, and everybody's being quite cautious. So, absolutely on the retainer basis. So you don't want to. There's two different things here. So one obviously, the price stays the same, but all you're going to do is potentially offer a payment plan. If you're going to offer payment plans, don't just say, for example, take £2,400 and divide it by 12 months at £200 a month. You still need to get some positive cash flow into your business. So even just taking a small deposit of £600 or £800 first, then dividing the rest up, because what that means is people are, and also you've got to be really clear with people that they're buying the product at a fixed price. It's £2,400, but they're getting a payment plan for it. And you send over the agreement, and it's for that fixed price. Because if people are tied into a monthly retainer, the danger is that all of a sudden they'll go for it now. You'll front load the work, especially for what you do, Ian. And then in 4 months' time, they go, nah, we're not seeing the value of it. We'll just cancel our direct debit. And that's the danger. You are shouldering some risk there. The other thing as well is I've actually not had too much trouble kind of, and this isn't a brag or anything like that, but I mean, we offer payment plans and things like that, but I've had clients pay in full in advance. What they needed though was just an extra bit of confidence in my ability to deliver. And so one of the things which you can do if you're, and this depends on your own confidence as well, because how people buy is often reflected in your ability to sell. It's like a mirror. You can offer guarantees. Now, obviously, you've got to be careful about the wording here, because, for example, if mindset coaches, people in health and well-being and stuff like that, there is specific red tape which says you can't offer guaranteed results, because we're working with people, and so for obvious reasons you can't do that. However, even with those tricky businesses, you can just tweak the wording slightly. And what it says is, if you agree to do this and we get to the end of it and you don't feel that you've had value out of working with me, then I will offer a 100% money back guarantee. Now, I've worked in businesses since 2004. I've worked across my two businesses with well over 1,000 clients. We've always done money back guarantees based on value and perception, not based on guaranteed results. We've had 2 people in 16 years ask for a refund. Okay, it's a pretty good hit rate. You've got to, but your confidence has to be, no, I know I'm good at what I do. I can get them a great result. They're going to enjoy working with me. It's not going to be a problem. You've got to be in that sort of headspace before you put that out there. And so for those clients who I've had who've been paying in advance, and a couple of coaches who work on my team as well now, they've been through, because of my coaching, similar sort of things. You've just got to, I call it like a thermometer test, like a temperature check. So, you know, Ian, when you're getting to that crunch point where they're about to say how much, or they do say how much, you could simply just drop in hey, listen, before we talk about pricing, I just want to establish like where you're at with our product and whether you feel we can deliver results for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, like 10 being slam dunk, yes, I'm in, and 1 being, no, I don't think you can do anything at all to help me. Where do you feel we stand? And I would never close anybody who's less than like a 9 or a 10. So if they're a 6, 7 or an 8, you've got a gap to close in terms of their confidence. I mean, I could go on about this for hours, because you get into the nuance of sales conversation there, but that's just a couple of examples of things which you can do.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I launch in with 1 or 2?
Nobody's been brave. Come on, folks.
Robin,
Yes.
can you give me examples of things you've seen which have been really brave in the CV world, which you thought, gosh, wow, that was an amazing piece of innovative thinking?
The best pieces are, I mean, they're in the news. Hopefully a number of us know about it. So when the likes of, take Brewdog, for example, and a lot of the whiskey distilleries up in Scotland literally switched off their revenue generating activities and switched into making hand sanitizer, you know, and they did it in a matter of days. It was phenomenal. You know, literally, I think Brewdog within a week were pumping out hand sanitizer in, you know, boxes out the back of their factory, which is just amazing. You also look at things like the respirators, where you've got the likes of Dyson, McLaren, and a lot of the Formula One teams, and various other sort of engineering technical companies. I know that some of the aerospace and automotive industries are very heavily getting into this, but they've rejigged warehouses, manufacturing plants, within a matter of weeks. And you think of the likes of sort of Boeing, you know, the scale of those production facilities that they've managed to rejig everything, design brand new, you know, respirators and products in a matter of weeks, and start producing them. And they've just, I think, what's it been, 4 weeks since lockdown? And I think it's Boeing or Airbus, or one of the big aerospace industries, have just had the first, I think it's a respirator approved for use by the NHS. And they'll be going out to production at like starting off with 1,000 units a day and ramping it up. 1,000 units a week, and then starting to sort of ramp it up.
Okay. Any other questions? Right. Some of the stuff we covered before, actually, the don't discount core product, we got that one right on week 1, I think. So I have learned something along the way. One of the things I find difficult is just being brave enough to charge what I'm worth. So let's say I've got a mate who's an action coach, who, if a small business comes to him, he says, either 12 or 18,000 pounds. Okay, and it takes quite a lot to charge 18,000 quid for 2 phone calls a month. So that's an average rate of £750 an hour. Okay, even more than James Hunt's rate. Okay. He's not listening to me. I tell you. Oh, so it's been recorded. Nick is smiling because she used to work with James. Okay, right.
I was listening.
All right. Hi, James. How do you do that?
I mean, it depends on your confidence and your ability to deliver. I mean, have you got a specific sort of example?
Not specifically. It's say, yeah, I can think. I've got a client who's a young lad, got no money. It's how I pitch the price to him, because he desperately needs my help. I can make an enormous difference with him. Yeah. Yeah. So he's in a service-based business. I won't tell you the service in case you know who he is. So yeah. So
I mean, I'm going to say something really awful now. I have a bit of a problem with the action coach model, because they lack the flexibility. And actually, the £1,500 a month, which Action Coach recommend, is more geared towards established high 6 and 7 figure businesses.
Yeah.
There's an argument to say that there's not a market product fit there for a small one-man band, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not to say that you couldn't potentially add value. I mean, one of the things you could do is create a breakthrough product, which is, right, we're going to spend half a day together, and I'm going to give you the strategy. It's then up to you to implement it. One of the dangers with one of the biggest problems I see with the coaching world at the moment is too many coaches are kind of in it for themselves. They're in it to kind of stack up those monthly fees, and they start to lose sight of what's in it for the client. And the client's there, and they're kind of, paying out all this money, resting all their hopes on the coach that's going to turn things around. And it's actually the coach's responsibility to say, no, I'm not responsible for your dreams and your goals. You're responsible for making those happen. And so I think it's about product market fit here. And it sounds to me as if actually that's a scenario where you'd walk away and go and find a high 6-figure business to work with. Yeah.
Someone just posted in the chat box, how about a commission on future sales? That's generally what I do. So I'd say the cost will be X, and if your turnover doesn't go up, then you can have your money back. So, or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, it goes back to that money back guarantee. But somebody who's kind of pre-VAT threshold, dropping 18 grand a year on coaching is a big risk.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, why not do it on a performance basis? Well, if we double your turnover, then how about we agree? I'll take a fixed percentage of that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop recording.